Hi, I'm Tyler, and this is the Fox Valley Film Critics. In this episode of the show, we're going to be discussing the next in the lineup of the AFI's Top 100 American Films, The Raiders of the Lost Ark, as well as the newest Rambo film, Rambo: Last Blood. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome to the show, brought to you by Groupthink Productions and FVTV. Joining us once again is our favorite insert insult here, Terry.
There we go. Yeah, I was going to say whipping boy at work too.
I've said that too many times.
Yeah.
I need to start writing these down beforehand. So, Raiders.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, a movie that made fedoras, leather bombers, very popular, and led to a lot of disillusioned kids that took archaeology as a major when they discovered that they weren't crashing through trying to find religious artifacts and fight Nazis. Other than that, it's probably. I'm so glad I got to do this episode because Raiders of the Lost Ark is a staple of my childhood. I've loved this movie ever since I was a little kid, and I still love it today. I think it's the best one in the Indiana Jones pantheon.
And we can kind of make this about all three Indiana Jones movies, or the three good Indiana Jones movies, because they're all kind of different variations of the same concept. But Raiders is definitely the best one. I actually didn't grow up with these necessarily. I had watched Star Wars a lot as a kid, but I didn't watch Raiders until I was probably a teenager or older adult. And then I watched all three of them probably in a row. But yeah, I mean, I would say even not having grown up with these are spectacular action movies. I mean, obviously these are kind of Spielberg's attempt to do like a James Bond style character, but it's completely different. It's very much in the George Lucas school of...
yeah. Well, George Lucas actually got the idea, I think, from... It was either the Pulp comics when he was a little boy, or...
adventure serials.
Is that... Yeah, because it was like, he's like the everyman, and I think...
Doc Savage kind of stuff.
And do you know H. Rider Haggard, the author?
I've heard of him.
Like King Solomon's Mines?
Oh, I was going to say Lost City of Z, but...
I don't know if he did that one or not.
No,
but I know,
I mean, like, there's a movie about like a famous British explorer who does kind of like this stuff.
Yeah. So I know H. Rider Haggard's hero is... Indiana Jones is based off of him, like the everyman. That's he's not just an explorer, but he's a fighter and he was like MacGyver in the 40s, basically.
I wouldn't say he's an everyman. I'd say he's a man's man. He's what every man wants to be, like incredibly strong and talented, and women like him and write "I love you" on their eyeballs.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
which is strange and mildly creepy, given that they're college students. But
yeah,
it was the '80s. So.
Yeah. But I mean, the movie itself, so that there's a plot to it. He's the Raiders of the Lost Ark because the whole point of it is they're going after the Ark, of the Ark of the Covenant, because the Nazis. This was like it goes off of when Hitler was really into the occult and was trying to. And this is true. Like Hitler actually looked for religious artifacts that he thought would give him him and his army supernatural powers to turn the tide of the war. And the Ark of the Covenant was the big one because, like it says in the movie, the Bible talks about it leveling mountains and laying entire armies to waste and everything like that. So that's the main thing. It's like he wants the Ark for himself, but he also doesn't want the Ark to end up in the hands of the Nazis, so he gets employed by the army to find it before the Nazis do. And that's
he also doesn't believe it's superstitious, or he just thinks it's a religious artifact, just not something with any sort of supernatural power to it. And part of the movie is just, I guess you could say, his story arc is him starting to realize that artifacts can have immense power to them. And
he finds out when they open it.
Yeah, in the most famous scene in the movie.
Yeah, the face melting. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everyone likes to make fun of this movie now because it's like, oh, the movie wouldn't change if Indy wasn't involved, because it would still get to the island and all the Nazis would still have the same thing happen to them. But like, no, it's a movie about Indiana Jones, so that's the important thing.
Yeah, and it's funny too. Like we've talked about this before with other things, and even as I was saying, this was a movie when I was a kid, and in the 80s it was PG. I think this is before they did the PG-13 ratings.
This is a hard PG.
Yeah, and whereas now with what passes for PG and PG-13, this is actually pretty mild compared. I mean, there's gun violence, things like that. I mean, one of my favorite scenes is when he's in Cairo and the guy's like wielding the sword and like swings it around. And he just looks at him and says, "I don't have like that. I don't have time for this." Pulls out his gun and just shoots him right there in the middle of the laundry thing.
Which was entirely done because Harrison Ford was sick and didn't want to do anything that day.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, he was originally he was supposed to get into like a fist fight with him and it would be a whole thing, but Harrison Ford's just like, why don't I just shoot the guy?
That's probably that's even better. He learned from when he was Han Solo. Just shoot first.
You kind of see it in his face in the scene too, because he's
Yeah.
just like, oh man, no.
Yeah, I would say to me too about this movie. Well, we'll get back into that. Special effects were still pretty good. I mean, the opening scene is by far like it just throws you right into the movie, and you know it's going to be good. The boulder running down the Mayan temple when he steals the idol. But there's a lot of other things too. I was going to say one of the things that I don't necessarily like about this movie is I think they could have gotten a better actress than Karen Allen. Like, I don't like her scope. She's okay in this one as Marion, but a lot of other things that I've seen her in, I don't like her. I mean, she's
supposed to be
passes.
she's supposed to play like the spunky young love interest who's
Yeah.
kind of feisty and has her own like
Yeah.
agency and does what she wants and stuff like that, which is fine.
I think the writing actually saved that part of because her character does have some very cool, like, good scenes, like the bar scene when they're doing the shots in Nepal and everything like that. I mean, that's iconic. But so let's say we got to get back to them, like going off on a tangent here. So not only is this a good adventure movie, but I think this is a movie too because it actually came at a time like Spielberg and Lucas both together. You could tell really wanted to make this movie. They put a lot into it. It wasn't just the special effects, but there's a lot of history involved. I think they stayed true to like the whole feeling of World War II and like the whole Nazi regime and its occult status and things like that. So I think this movie is an awesome adventure movie, but if you don't know a lot about like the Ark and like other like archaeology and like other like Egyptian culture, things like that, I think this movie can actually it does delve into that in a pretty good way.
I wouldn't say the Indiana Jones movies are good representations of culture, especially after the monkey scene in Temple of Doom.
Well, that Temple of Doom was a little bit different.
Cultural sensitivity.
Yeah. Well, like we've said, it was the 80s. Things were a lot different back then. But no, I still think you can do this. You have to start with, if you're going to get into the Indiana Jones pantheon, you have to start with Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, the best description of what makes this film work, I heard, came from a film critic Hulk, who said that it takes a character and sets him up as the most incredible, intelligent person in the room, and proceeds to drag him across the ground for the entirety of the movie.
And I think that's actually a good point because that point's also been made with another classic from the 80s, Die Hard, because Indiana Jones, it's not like he's the hero that gets unscathed. I mean, he gets shot, he gets beaten up, he gets like buried alive, and he has to figure out how to get out of all these situations and survive. And I think he's definitely a hero that you root for the entirety of the movie, and it
never doesn't give him a break ever.
Yeah, no,
it's
he's
like
just
that,
nonstop.
It's like that. There was an interview I heard from the Coen brothers once where they were talking about a couple of their movies, and they talked about like, why do you put your characters through so much torment? And they just said, well, it's fun for us.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, but even with like this is like a perfect example of it. Like they do not give Indy a break. He has to drag himself up from a car multiple times. He has to survive on the outside of a submarine. He just does not catch a break once in this movie. So there's an immense catharsis just watching the guy struggle against so much being thrown at him the whole time.
Yeah. And I think that there's also humor thrown into it, albeit somewhat subtly. Like when he raids when he sneaks into the Nazi base and he knocks out that one Nazi only to realize that his uniform is too small, and he's like trying to button it and he can't get it buttoned and everything. So, and again, there's part like and I know this was a personal insult from Spielberg and Lucas when the monkey gives the salute to the two Nazis, and the one Nazi's like like kind of confused, does it like salutes a monkey and everything. So, and again, we're going on a tangent. I think we just need to talk about how much fun this movie was. It's a fun movie. I think it's a movie that no matter how old you are and when you watch it, it's a movie that you'll enjoy. I think this is
peak Spielberg. I wouldn't say this is his best film, even because you can kind of go different ways as to what Spielberg's best movies are. Like E.T.'s probably up there, Jaws is up there, Jurassic Park's up there. I mean, there's a lot of things, but this is definitely one of his stronger franchises overall. One of his only franchises that actually like works outside of the first movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to talk about how bad the later ones are?
We can. Temple of Doom has its moments.
I know a lot of people that think that's the best one, which it's fascinating because
Yeah.
it works as an adventure movie, but it is definitely the weakest of the trilogy for me.
And then like going off of that too, like I know people that think it's weird how people, because I know people that think Aliens is the best one, and I'm like, huh? And Temple of Doom, my favorites out of Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Last Crusade.
Crusade's fun. It feels like it's doing a lot of things the first one didn't have time to do. Like it's like he's gonna hang out with his dad. Oh, he's gonna find Hitler and get a book signed by him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of fun, quirky things in Last Crusade.
No, were you old enough to remember when they made the Young Indiana Jones on TV?
No.
You don't remember any of those episodes?
That would have been before
Okay,
me.
I forget who the actor was. God, he was the young guy, and yeah, it was the Young Indiana Jones, and it was his adventures as like a late teens, early 20s when he first started getting into the archaeology. But that's like one of the things about this movie too. These movies is that it paints a very false picture of archaeology. And one of the things is like, because it's Spielberg and Lucas, really big sets, and they're all pristine. It's like, oh, all I had to do was dig a few feet, open a door, and it's like, and all this thing that's been sitting here for thousands of years is all perfectly intact, and everything's where it should be.
Goodness only knows why they're making a fifth one with the 80-year-old Harrison Ford.
Yeah,
That's
right.
all the time we have for this segment. Join us for the next segment. We'll be discussing Rambo: Last Blood. Stay tuned. Speaking of decrepit, falling apart 80s action franchises, what did you think of Rambo: Last Blood?
So the way that I'd been describing it is, it's a Rambo movie. It's not going to win any awards. Basically, it's bad acting and just awesome kills. And that's all you could really want from a Rambo movie.
I saw it with one of a friend of mine who's been on the show before, and she described it as, we described it collectively as an hour of boring and then 20 minutes of the best Home Alone movie I've ever seen.
It's so funny that, because I made that reference too when he was starting to make all the booby traps, like, oh, it's like Home Alone for adults. Except for, instead of Harry and Marv, it's the Mexican cartel.
Where do we even begin with this one? I mean, like, I only just watched the Rambo movies for the first time this summer because I am perpetually late about everything. And the first two are really, really good, although they are extremely silly in a very strange way. I mean, this is a movie about a traumatized war veteran being sent back to do the job that should have been done in the first place. And like what are these movies even about?
Well,
like,
First Blood was more, he got pushed to that limit and had to resort to the skills that he learned as a Green Beret, which First Blood took itself very seriously.
It's like Grindhouse Deer Hunter.
Yeah.
Like, it's like this weird hodgepodge of things that don't really work together.
Yeah, First Blood definitely took itself really seriously because it was actually, First Blood was, Rambo itself is based on a novel.
Yes.
I think it was written in the 70s.
Yeah, 'cause the first one was like a late 70s. I think.
And which is funny because it was actually written to be an anti-war novel and show the horrors of what a lot of people in Vietnam went through and what they had to live with when they came back.
Actually, 82, my right. my
Okay.
bad.
But the Rambo character, I mean, you know, Hollywood, they can change anything and make sequels out of it. But yeah, and as we were talking about this a little bit too, this movie definitely fits in the Rambo franchise more than I think Part 3, because Part 3 you could kind of.
I mean, Part 3 felt like it was just Part 2 again, but set in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, I didn't mind that, because there were lots of great like little moments in it, like the scene where he's just like, "What are we gonna face all of the communists? F them." I'm like, okay, this movie is justified just for that freaking line.
But see, the thing with me that didn't work with this movie, it worked in the sense that it's Rambo, but what didn't work is that it's like a 70-something-year-old Rambo that's still kind of doing all the things that he was doing in First Blood Part 2. It's like, it was a little unbelievable. Like the knowledge of the booby traps and like that was cool because that's, you know, what he knows from being a Green Beret, but the running around and all that, it was just kind of, it's like, doesn't this dude ever just get
we're still
old?
We're living in like the post-Taken world where every single action star over the age of 50 thinks that they can like resurrect their movie franchise
Yeah.
from when they were a young man. Sometimes it's cool, and sometimes it really, really
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't work with Indiana Jones, because the appeal of that character is he's a young, strapping young man who's capable of doing incredible things, and it doesn't work when you're 70.
Yeah.
And it's not going to work in Indiana 5 either, probably.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work with Rambo because Stallone is in the twilight years of his life, and it works. And he works great as like the mentor figure in Creed. Like I kind of wish this had been like a Creed style movie, but I don't think that anyone involved had the artistic chops to make a Rambo style, a Creed style Rambo movie.
Well, and I guess, yeah, if they went the route with his niece where he trained her, but it's like...
I wouldn't even want him to train. I just want it to be like a little more like focused and clean cut as a story.
Yeah.
Like,
it did jump. It did kind of...
Well, it's just a really cheap, kind of
Yeah.
lazy action movie.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of settings. It really takes place in like 2 settings the entire movie, and there's not that much scope to the story, and the camera style looks like it was shot really cheaply because it's just like people driving around in cars and hanging out in rooms.
Yeah.
Like, there's not that much to the movie that's that
No.
complicated.
And even the one before this, Rambo, when it was set in Cambodia, it felt like he did a little bit more to be... Like, it felt like he was trying to do the same thing, whereas, like, the atrocities that are happening in Cambodia was trying to bring them to light, much like he was trying to do with...
Well, that was in Burma.
Burma, okay.
Yeah.
But much like what he was trying to do with the what happens to a lot of young girls in Mexico, but it was just, that part of the story was just so like, and then it was like, let's get to the action. It left a little bit more.
I mean, I guess, would it be fair to say every single Rambo movie is about one particular thing? Like, because the first movie, it really isn't about anything. It's more about like, I guess you could say it's about police brutality, but it's really about like one guy having a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
But the second one is like, you could say it's kind of about prisoner of war activism. Third one's kind of about like freedom for Afghanistan in face of the Soviet occupation, which ultimately ends up meaning it's a pro-Taliban movie, ironically. But
Even put that together, that's fun.
I saw a lot of people have pointed that out.
Okay, I have to
like,
do. I have to
yay,
read
the Taliban!
I saw Rambo 3 a long time ago when it like had first.
Well,
come
yeah, all
on
the
to-
people that fought the Soviet Union became the Taliban.
Wow,
So
okay.
that,
I did
it, was,
not- okay.
it was unintentional.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the fourth one is just about the Burmese Civil War, and it's kind. I kind of like the fourth one.
I like the fourth one a lot too.
It's kind of funny. Apparently, the actual author of the book likes the fourth one a lot too, which is funny.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, the fifth one. I mean, it feels like more of the fourth one in the sense that it's kind of got that like grindhouse, low, ultra-violent style that I think a lot of the fans like. But I get why the critics are completely lambasting this, sort of.
And because I think the first one set a bar, because like I said, the first one took itself really seriously, and I think because it had a novel to work off of. The second one was really all about a body count, because the body count just skyrockets by the second one. And then I think the third one tried to take itself a little seriously, and then Sylvester Stallone was just like, whatever, it's Rambo. He's bigger, he's bigger than big. It's the Rambo character. So the fourth one was like, let's just go out there and have a 65-year-old Rambo just taking down an entire Burmese army. And then this one...
Have you been reading the reviews for this one? Like,
not really, no.
They're like ripping it apart. Like I think they're being too harsh, honestly. Like I think there's so many people that don't realize that people are just going in this for they want to see Sylvester Stallone rip people's hearts out.
Yeah.
But the older reviews are like, the movie is like a message movie about the building a wall in the southern border of the United States, and it's all about like that stuff. And I'm just sitting here like, wait, are you defending the cartel?
Yeah, right. And it's like, stop.
Like, no, it's like it's a movie about Rambo ripping a man's heart out.
Take this movie for what it is. It's a fun Rambo movie that's unapologetic. That's one thing that I really liked about it. From the beginning, this movie knows what it is. It's a Rambo movie.
Yeah.
And Rambo has something bad happen to him, and he goes on a rampage.
That's why it has an 80% user rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, because it's going to be it's going to be a cult action, like you were saying. I think this is one that fits really well in the Rambo.
This movie is going to go on my best bad movie of 2019 spot. So.
Yeah, it wasn't trying to win any awards. It wasn't like Sylvester Stallone was trying to make a combination of Rambo and Rocky. It wasn't. It was just It's like you could just look at the outline. Rambo's life is peaceful. Something bad happens to Rambo. Rambo gets mad. Rambo gets even. Rambo
Yeah.
rides off into the sunset.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the full cycle of Rambo. It's just an eternal struggle of
Yeah.
one man trying to make peace in the world and failing.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if they're actually going to do a sixth movie now. Cause
We'll see.
You were noticing in the movie he doesn't die in the movie.
No.
Like, not a spoiler. He doesn't die in the movie.
No.
So I'm like he just kind of walks off into the sunset, and I'm like, wait, is him walking off into the sunset him saying that there's going to go on more adventures, or is this like his? Is this him and actually ending the story somewhat? I'm like, I hope it's the latter, because I think we've tapped out the Rambo
Yeah.
supply. We can't make any more Rambo movies if this is all that's left to it. I mean,
Maybe he rides off and becomes the sheriff of some small town that needs it, that has two warring gangs that control it. Oh wait, no, that's Yojimbo. And it's like, oh wait, Yo Rambo. But no,
a fistful of Rambos.
Yeah. No, I think that as far as a Rambo go, like, people need to stop reading too much into it and just realize that this was just a fun Rambo movie.
You don't read social responsibility into a movie
Yeah.
that doesn't have any sort of conscience.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I think like another subplot of this movie was also like, let's just see how many sharp things I can stick into people, because it was just like, I mean, and I like how they went along with how he makes his own knives now, but it's like all he was doing was just making just these random, like just sharp things that would like go through. And I mean, yeah.
This guy, he was just sitting in that. For some reason, he has a system of tunnels built
Yeah.
underneath the farm. I don't know why, but he's just spent years building this series of tunnels so that he can kind of like go full Viet Cong on the cartel.
Right. Well, no, his niece said it was because he was crazy and he likes tunnels. Wasn't that the explanation?
That's not a
for the
reason.
tunnels? I thought that
If
summed
I
it up.
started building tunnels under my house, you would have more questions for me than that.
Maybe. Maybe. We'll see. That's not that far fetched if you started building tunnels
This is
under your
this
house.
is the film criticism tunnels,
right. But yeah,
They serve a valuable function.
there's one thing that I didn't, like I said, I didn't read any reviews, but there is one thing. I think Sylvester Stallone could have given a better acting job.
Well, he wrote the film. It's just like, so apparently this was his vision.
Okay, because I think some of the lines and the dialogue were just a little forced, and this is Rocky we're talking about. It's like he has a little bit more chops than what he gave, but it's still
Yeah.
really good.
Go see Rambo 5. That's all the time we have for this segment. Join us for this final segment where we'll be getting this week's movie recommendation. Hello and welcome to the final segment. We're going to hand things over to Terry now for the movie recommendation of the week.
So I want to do Robert Redford's 1972 film Jeremiah Johnson, which was directed by Sidney Pollack. It keeps in theme with the one man against all the defying odds. And in this, Robert Redford plays Jeremiah Johnson, and he just gets done. I think it's set after the United States war with Mexico. It's either the Civil War or the war with Mexico, and he is
Spanish-American War, or
Yeah.
not the Mexican-American War.
Yep, and he's a veteran of that, and he wants to go and live a quiet life in the mountains as a hermit. And every time he gets set up, things happen. He runs afoul of the local Crow Indian tribe and has to fight them. He basically ends up being has one of the chief's daughters forced upon him as his wife. And then he unwillingly comes across another family that the entire family, except for the mother and a small son, were murdered by Indians. And he adopts the boy, even though he wants to live this life of a hermit, and raises him. And then a group of people come in there because of the way he knows the mountain and want him to help them save people that are stranded on the other side. And he gets into more trouble with the Crow Indians. It's just a really good movie, and Robert Redford gives just a wonderful performance as this guy that basically, like I said, he just wants to be left alone, but he just keeps getting everything thrust upon him, and he has to deal with it. It's a survival movie, and it's one of my favorites movies ever. I remember watching it when it came on TMC, and I was like, I'll check it out. I've never seen it. I like Robert Redford. I know Sidney Pollack a little bit. It was just really awesome. I mean, it's just really cool.
I had not heard of this. This sounds interesting, though. Did you see The Old Man and the Gun last year?
No.
That was apparently Robert Redford was officially retired from acting, so that was his kind of going away forever film. So,
Okay.
Although ironically, he shows up one more time in Avengers
Yeah.
Endgame. So
Does he still run? It's not Cannes that he. What's the film festival that he was running?
I don't know. Sundance.
Sundance. Yeah, I don't know
Thank
if
you,
he.
cameraman.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Does he still run? I don't know if he's still a part of that or not, or if he.
He's up there. Like,
Okay.
He's kind of. I guess he's at the point where he just wants to retire, and which is weird because a lot of actors don't do that. Like I know Jack Nicholson retired officially, but very few actors like they don't stop into their 80s.
Yeah. Have you
like,
seen Jack Nicholson lately?
He's like decrepit.
Yeah.
He looks his
He's not gonna
age.
do too much acting.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Stallone's still doing it. and he
Yeah,
should
that's
be.
true. But Stallone also does HGH and.
You see, this is the moral of the story. Be Robert Redford
Yeah.
and retire
Age
gracefully.
yes. Age gracefully and retire gracefully. But no,
Gracefully, move into like graceful, older, gentle films
Yeah.
as you get older.
But no,
Don't rip a man's heart out, Mr. Redford.
if you like Robert Redford, this is probably one of his better movies. Like I said, it's one of my favorites. It's one that I could watch pretty much any time. It's just it's a really good story, a lot of cool characters, and again, like I said, culturally it actually does deal with the plight of Native Americans and their sacred rights and their beliefs and like the encroachment of European America on them. It deals with that in a very good way. It does not paint the Crow Indians in a what's the word? And I don't want to say misogynistic. What's the word I'm looking for?
Chauvinistic.
Yeah, or like just in a bad way. It's a really good movie.
That's all the time we have for this episode of the show. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to find past recordings of the show, you can do so at the Groupthink Productions YouTube page. You can follow me on Twitter at @IndieSocialCritI, that's critic without the C at the end of it. And you can find my written reviews at Geeks Under Grace and Legal Insurrection, including my written review for Rambo 5. That's all the time we have for the show. Have a good day.